The Saltwater Cure. Thank you so much for choosing this channel. If you enjoy true stories that resonate with real life, please subscribe and leave a like. It means a lot and helps our community grow. That was the formula. I'd heard it 100 times, seen 1,000 variations, but saying it still felt awkward, fake. Like trying on someone else's personality. But I needed the views. I needed the algorithm to be my friend. I needed, more than anything, to make rent. I cleared my throat, adjusted the webcam, and forced a smile. Okay, take 2. Hey everyone, welcome back to welcome to my channel. I'm still figuring out the name thing. Anyway, today I wanted to share a story. A story about a time in my life when everything shifted. When I had to, start over. I hope it resonates. So, here it goes. My fingers hovered over the keyboard, hesitating. Where to begin? With the email? The severance package? The hollow feeling in my chest that threatened to consume me whole? No. Start with the water. Always start with the water. Imagine the Pacific. Not the idyllic, turquoise postcard Pacific of Hawaii, but the rugged, gray-green Pacific of Northern California. Think churning waves, salt spray stinging your face, the relentless cry of gulls. That was my soundtrack for a very long time. And it was the sound that finally, almost accidentally, saved me. I was 42 when the axe fell. Not literally, of course. It was a perfectly polite, perfectly corporate axe, delivered via email from HR. Restructuring, downsizing, difficult but necessary decisions, the usual platitudes. After 15 years, building a career from the ground up at Sterling Innovations, I was surplus, redundant, gone. My first reaction wasn't anger or even fear. It was numbness, a thick, cottony feeling that muffled the world. I went through the motions. I packed my box. I shook hands with colleagues who offered sympathetic murmurs and promises to stay in touch, that we both knew were empty. I even managed a weak smile for my boss, a man I genuinely liked, who looked genuinely uncomfortable firing me. The drive home was a blur. I lived in a small, overpriced apartment in San Francisco, a city I'd always dreamed of living in. Now, staring at the Golden Gate Bridge looming in the distance, it felt less like a dream and more like a gilded cage. I went inside, poured myself a glass of wine, a good one, a Cabernet Sauvignon I'd been saving for a special occasion, and sat on the balcony, watching the fog roll in. The special occasion, I realized, had arrived. The occasion of my life crumbling before my very eyes. The wine didn't help. It just amplified the numbness, turning it into a dull ache. After a few hours, and several glasses, I decided I needed air. Real air, not the stale, recycled air of my apartment. I needed the ocean. I drove to Ocean Beach, a long, windswept stretch of sand that felt perpetually deserted. Even on sunny days, a biting wind usually kept the tourists away. That night, it was shrouded in fog, the waves roaring invisibly in the darkness. I parked the car, walked down to the beach, and just stood there. The wind whipped my hair around my face, the salt spray soaked my clothes, and the roar of the waves filled my ears. I closed my eyes and just breathed. For the first time all day, I felt something other than numbness. I felt alive, cold, miserable, and utterly insignificant, but alive nonetheless. I started going to Ocean Beach every day. At first, it was just to escape the suffocating silence of my apartment. I'd walk along the shore, picking up shells and sea glass, anything to keep my hands busy, my mind occupied. I'd watch the surfers, their silhouettes dark against the gray sky, battling the waves with a fierce determination. I envied them. Their lives seemed so simple, so focused. Catch a wave, stay afloat, repeat. Gradually, the beach became more than just an escape. It became a sanctuary, a place where I could shed the weight of my expectations, my failures, my fears. a place where I could just be. I started waking up early, before sunrise, to watch the dawn break over the ocean. The colors were incredible, shifting from deep blues and purples to vibrant oranges and pinks. I'd sit on the sand, wrapped in a blanket, sipping coffee from a thermos, and just watch. It was a ritual, a meditation. It grounded me. I started talking to people. The other early morning beachgoers, the dog walkers, the surfers, the old woman who collected seaweed. At first, it was just polite small talk. But slowly, as I shared my self-consciousness, as I stopped worrying about what they thought of me, the conversations became deeper, more meaningful. I met a surfer named Kai. He was in his late 20s, with some bleached hair and a perpetual grin. He worked part-time at a surf shop and lived in a van down by the beach. He was everything I wasn't, carefree, adventurous, completely unburdened by the weight of corporate ambition. We started surfing together. Or rather, he surfed, and I floundered. I'd never surfed before. I was awkward, uncoordinated, and terrified of drowning. But Kai was patient. He taught me the basics: how to paddle, how to pop up, how to read the waves. He told me stories about his travels, about the incredible waves he'd ridden, about the people he'd met. At first, I just wanted to impress him. I wanted to prove that I wasn't a complete failure, that I could still learn new things. But then something shifted. I started to enjoy it. The feeling of the board beneath my feet, the rush of adrenaline as I caught a wave, the sheer physical effort of paddling against the current. It was exhilarating. I wasn't good, not even close. I spent more time wiping out than riding. But every once in a while, I'd catch a wave, and for a few glorious seconds, I'd feel like I was flying, like I was free. My unemployment benefits were running out. The severance package was dwindling. I needed to find a job. The pressure was mounting. I spent hours online, scrolling through job boards, tailoring my resume, writing cover letters. I went on interviews, but nothing seemed to click. I was either overqualified or underqualified. Or, more likely, I just wasn't the right fit. The rejection was demoralizing. It chipped away at my confidence, reinforcing the feeling that I was washed up, irrelevant. I started to doubt myself. Had I peaked? Was I destined to spend the rest of my life unemployed, living on the fringes of society? One evening, after another particularly grueling interview, I went to Ocean Beach, feeling defeated and hopeless. The fog was thick, the waves were wild, and the wind was howling. I sat on the sand, wrapped in my blanket, watching the surfers battle the elements. Kai paddled over to me, his face hidden behind a thick beard and a spray of salt water. "Rough day?" he asked. I nodded, tears welling up in my eyes. "I don't know what to do anymore," I said. "I feel like drowning." He sat down beside me, pulled out a thermos of hot chocolate, and handed it to me. "The ocean has a way of making you feel small," he said. "But it also has a way of reminding you that you're part of something bigger." He pointed to the waves. "See those guys out there? They're not fighting the ocean. They're working with it. They're using its energy to propel themselves forward." He looked at me, his eyes serious. "Maybe you need to stop fighting too. Maybe you need to stop trying to force things and just go with the flow." His words struck a chord. I realized he was right. I'd been so focused on finding a job, on recreating the life I'd lost, that I hadn't allowed myself to explore other possibilities. I hadn't allowed myself to be open to new experiences. That night, I had a dream. I was surfing, riding a huge wave, the sun shining on my face. I wasn't afraid. I wasn't worried. I was just present. In the moment, I woke up feeling refreshed, energized. I knew what I had to do. I wasn't going to give up on finding a job, but I wasn't going to let it define me either. I was going to explore other options. I was going to take a chance. I remembered something my grandfather used to say: "When life gives you lemons, make lemonade. And if you can't make lemonade, sell the lemons and buy something else. I had lemons. Lots of them. But what could I buy? What was I good at? What did I enjoy? I thought about my years at Sterling Innovations. ID started in marketing, but ID always been drawn to the creative side of things. ID loved designing brochures, writing copy, creating presentations. ID even dabbled in video editing. And then it hit me. Video. ID always enjoyed watching documentaries, nature shows, travel vlogs. Maybe I could create my own. I didn't have any fancy equipment, just my laptop and my webcam. But I had a story to tell. I had experiences to share. And I had a burning desire to connect with other people. I started small. I created a YouTube channel and began posting videos about my life, my struggles, my discoveries. I talked about losing my job, about finding solace in the ocean, about learning to surf. I shared my thoughts, my hopes, my fears. At first, no one watched. My videos got a handful of views, mostly from friends and family. But I didn't give up. I kept posting, kept experimenting, kept learning. Slowly, things started to change. People started to find my channel. They started to leave comments, to share their own stories, to offer encouragement. I realized that I wasn't alone. There were other people out there who had experienced similar challenges, who were searching for meaning, who were looking for connection. My channel started to grow. Not quickly, not dramatically, but steadily. I started to get emails from people who said my videos had inspired them, had helped them through difficult times. It was incredibly rewarding. I started to monetize my channel through ads and sponsorships. It wasn't enough to replace my old salary, but it was enough to pay the bills. And it was enough to give me hope. I was no longer defined by my job. I was defined by my passion. I was defined by my creativity. I was defined by my ability to connect with other people. I was still surfing. I was still terrible, but I was getting better. And I was loving every minute of it. One day, I got an email from a production company. They'd seen my videos and were impressed by my storytelling ability. They wanted to offer me a job. Not a corporate job, not a soul-crushing job, but a creative job. A job that would allow me to use my skills, to express my passion, to make a difference in the world. I accepted the job. I moved to a new city, closer to the ocean. I started a new chapter in my life. It wasn't easy. There were still challenges, still setbacks, still moments of doubt. But I had learned a valuable lesson. I had learned that life is not about control. It's about adaptation. It's about resilience. It's about finding the beauty in the chaos. And it's about the saltwater cure, the healing power of the ocean, the cleansing effect of the waves, the grounding presence of the sand. I still go to the beach every day. I still watch the sunrise. I still surf. And I still remember the day I lost my job, the day I thought my life was over. Because it wasn't over. It was just beginning. I smiled at the webcam, a genuine smile this time. The awkwardness had faded. The fakeness was gone. So that's my story. Or at least, a part of it. I hope it resonated. I hope it gave you a little bit of hope, a little bit of inspiration. And if you're going through a difficult time, remember that you're not alone. There are people out there who care about you, who want to help you. And there's always the ocean. I clicked the stop button, ending the recording. I leaned back in my chair, feeling a sense of release. It was out there now. My story. Raw, vulnerable, and real. I didn't know if anyone would watch it. I didn't know if it would make a difference. But I knew that I had done my best. And that was enough. The sun was setting, casting long shadows across my apartment. I walked over to the window and looked out at the city. The lights were twinkling, like stars in the night sky. I smiled. Life was good. Not perfect, not easy, but good. And I was grateful. I grabbed my surfboard and headed for the beach. The waves were calling.